We've got the Olympic gold medalist and now two-time Olympian Valarie Allman and Coach Zeb Sion. How y'all feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah?
I am still riding the high from last night and so happy to be here, be with this amazing set list. It's been a good day so far.
Well, listen, you bringing the vibes up, but I want to get straight down to it. I know your time is precious, okay? When I think about you, right, I think you are a poster child for long-term development. You know what I'm saying? When you were coming out of Stanford, obviously you were All-American. You were a very talented discus thrower. I think you threw 60. What was your PR in college? 61 something?
Yeah,
right, which is very good, right? We got young women right now trying to do the same thing. But we're here 8 years later, one Olympic gold medal, and we're on the precipice of hopefully a second one, right? Talk to me about what's been able to allow you to sustain. Maybe it's this guy sitting next to you. Talk to me about the last 8 years and what's allowed you to develop over this time.
Yeah, I mean, you set me up pretty dang well to pass the buck over to this guy.
Oh, really? Is that
listen, I want if the answers from I want to hear from the both of you.
Snoop was just on here, so puff, puff, pass.
Right. I love it. I love it.
No, I think that it's been amazing, you know, her ability to be so consistent for so long and for the last several years. But to your point, I mean, it does go back, right? Like, there was a time where, you know, she thought about getting out of the sport and, you know, working for Microsoft and pursuing, you know, engineering and those type of things. But luckily she didn't.
Luckily for us all.
Exactly. But I think it's just been, you know, it's been adjustments to training. It's been, you know, her consistency, her, you know, diligence, her, you know, dedication. It's been just next level. And I think, you know, we've made some smart decisions, obviously, throughout the path. But, yeah, no, it's been a great combination of things, I think. All the variables, you know, really working well together.
Awesome.
I'm going to steal this question. Jarrell, we were talking about this interview a little before as we were prepping for the show. But for a lot of athletes, just making the team is an accomplishment. When you come in as such an overwhelming favorite, maybe the heaviest favorite in the entire track meet, that's got to come with its own set of pressures. Talk us through sort of how you prepare for this meet versus how you go to prepare for the next big one at the Olympic Games.
Yeah, you know, I feel like pressure is something that I'm starting to kind of view as a friend. You know, we get along pretty well, and I know that we're always going to be together and got to make it work. And I think we really chose to view this trials as kind of a mock Olympics. You know, the stage in Paris is going to be really competitive, and it's going to take that 70-meter type throw on the day to walk away with a gold medal, and that's what we're really aiming to do. So we took this opportunity here at trials to come in, execute, and see where we're at. And it really does just give me a lot of confidence heading into this next cycle to know as my body keeps coming back. I keep trusting his plan that we're going to be in a good spot to really go for it at the Olympics.
Listen, we got the footage right here of your 70-meter throw last night to seal the deal on you qualifying for your second Olympic Games. Talk to me about getting to sign the Eiffel Tower and what that experience was like.
It was, I mean, I feel like just watching that, it really does feel like one of those movie moments.
Sure.
You know, I've been in the movie too where it doesn't quite play out the way you hope, you know, of being at the last two World Championships, being so close to being a world champion.
Sure. And
that moment getting away, and to have that 6th-round throw, everyone clapping, be able to do it, and then get to go over, sign this beautiful Eiffel Tower. I mean, I'm still pinching myself. I'm glad I get to watch the video and see that really happened. It was pretty cool.
Listen, obviously, if you see Valerie's hair right here on the screen, it's windy. I was hoping for a little bit of that wind yesterday to break the fifth wall in our show. We do predictions. We had an over-under set on 71 even. I took the over. Listen, I believed. I took the over. He said, you too. That's funny. Talk to me about your preparations coming in here, right? Because as Will said, obviously coming here, listen, you might have had to trip and fall in the ring almost to not qualify, even though we know it's serious, right? But that's the level of favor you were here. But watching you throw in the qualifying, we knew you were ready. So talk to me about coming into this meet, and what did you see in your training that made you feel like far throws are possible right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's hard to, like, as you get more experience, you obviously have those like certain metrics you really look at that like give you confidence, but I think a lot of it is like the real estate in your head, you know, of like, do I know that I'm ready to go in and try to be the best I've ever been? And I think that's been a lot of the conversation we've been trying to have is like, how can I push the limits for myself? How can I maximize my potential? And we just had seen some of those metrics, whether it was in the weight room, whether it was in technique, but the goal was to go out and throw a season best, and I know if I keep doing that, eventually that SB is going to turn to a PB, and that is going to feel good. So after that prelim, I thought I was close. You know, I really wanted it in that final. And
you and me both, man. You and me both. Now listen, no blame, because listen, we'll take 76. We'll take 70, 76 any day of the week, man. But I was hoping for that 71 as well.
him.
Your series yesterday,
Fantastic.
I mean, was unbelievable. Every throw was just on point. One of the things that I always love to see is your interaction with the fans as you go over to talk to Zeb and get notes. I want to know, when you're having such a good series and you kind of know from maybe one of the early throws that it's locked up, are we coming over? Are we talking about dinner plans? Are we talking about what kind of bottle of champagne we're popping tonight? Like, what are you guys talking about in between throws?
Well, early yesterday, we were definitely talking about a lot of technique,
Sure.
and she was trying to find that. And then I told her at one point, I was like, I'm techniqued out. Like, I'm over it, you know what I mean? Like, we're moving on. We just need to hit this thing. And so that's really when her energy changed. She hit the 69 and then built on that, and then eventually through the 70. But yeah, we definitely, she needed that, like, a little bit of more energy, a little more fire, because it was just a little too technical, Whereas on the prelim day, she was feeling that internal tension. Like, she was a little ball of fury for sure, so. Yeah,
I think there maybe was one little blip of Tracktown pizza orders. I'm
I'm
not
mad at that. Listen, I'm not mad at that track time. I can almost smell it. We're not too far away from it. Listen, I do want to talk about last year, right? Obviously, coming into the World Championships as a heavy favorite, Lagi has the best over life at that period of time. She gets the medal. She gets the gold medal. I want to talk about dealing with that moment and how you guys implement that in training to prepare for something like that as it comes up potentially in Paris or moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that moment has lingered with me, and
Sure. Which is not always negative either, people
Yeah.
out there. Sometimes you got to let things sting a little bit.
I think you always learn more when you're not on the top of the podium.
Sure.
And if you have the right perspective about that, I think it can be your superpower. And I've really tried to lean into that. And I know there's always going to be that moment in competition where it gets hot or someone takes the lead and you have to have a response, or you got to be in it and you got to know you can do it.
Right.
And I think it's less about like practicing techniques of like, okay, now I respond. It's more just how do we continue to elevate? So ideally I don't have to be in that response.
Sure.
I mean, it's pretty cool that I've required my competitors to have 3-meter PBs, 4-meter PBs to be able to beat me on the date. Like that's good, but I want to be able to continue to elevate and just know that when we're going into the meet, our goal is that 70-meter mark, and if we can hit that, it's gonna be.
If we get into 70, it ain't too many people in the history of this thing that's hanging around at 70 meters. So I think that's a very good barrier to think about.
Thank you, Darrell.
Coach Zeb, you're not the brains, but you're part of the brains behind the operation. Oh, she's got a big one in the noggin there.
Stanford nerd.
Nerds. How do you approach training an athlete with such a big brain? And is it different? I mean, obviously training is a personalized endeavor, but like when you have someone who's so smart, so introspective, obviously she knows the event very well. What do you find to like A, to motivate, and B, where you're like, all right, this is the thing that we can maybe work on together to take Val to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely starts with trust. I think because a lot of times you have those super intelligent athletes, if they don't trust or believe in what we're doing in a partnership, then I think it's easy to get caught up. It's easy to think a little maybe too much for themselves, right? It's easy to be like, well, I think we should actually do this instead. So the trust component was huge, and that's been that way for a while. But I think that challenging her in real ways is also important, right? Because she is always thinking about how can I be better and what can we do to make that next step. And last year at the end, we had a long debrief, right? And when it kind of played out the way it did, and it's like, okay, how do we actually elevate this thing? And we do that in a lot of ways, and a lot of it's like how we talk about technique, how we talk about performance, how we view a season and success. And I think some of those things, like she was saying, in between her ears are the biggest things. So I mean, I think coming in this year, we have elevated her. She's throwing Diamond League PBs, that we view at various categories, right? We got Diamond League PB, we got Stadium PB, just various ways to think about it that are maybe a little different. And I think that, keeps her thinking, and challenging her in a different way. So
Brittany Reese was talking about there were certain days where Jeremy Fisher would come out and put a $100 bill out the 7-meter mark and say, we need a 7-meter jump from you right now.
That's not hyperbole, ladies and gentlemen. I was there. That was facts.
That's crazy.
And I only believe it because Darrell told me it was real. Well, are there some things that you guys do in practice to keep it fun, to keep it light, but also drive that competitive spirit?
I feel like it's less about the competitive spirit, to be honest. I mean, Zeb Sion doesn't offer me any money for throwing it, which made me think about this.
Listen,
know?
maybe we making some changes. So we'll see about that next week.
Send me the invoice.
Right.
But I think so much of throwing is it's such a technical event that it's all about rhythm and timing. And he's more excited sometimes if I back off and I hit the right technique and the discus maybe goes 55 to 60 meters than if I'm blowing through the ring trying to hit that thing, because he knows that in the moment if I execute the right technique, that's what leads to the biggest results. So we're always playing good music and having fun. I mean, I'm grateful for the bond we have. I think that's one of the most energizing parts of our dynamic. But it's just taking it day by day and trying to get after it.
What music are you listening to?
We're
You guys a couple of Swifties over here? What's the deal?
Oh, for sure.
I love it.
Sometimes I have to put the brakes on that. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a little too much.
You put the radio. You're like, I'm getting too
It's like,
excited
I've
now.
had enough. You know,
Yeah.
well, or that way.
we listen to a lot of country music, a lot of like more like
That's that
poppy
Texas.
stuff.
That's that Texas love right
Yeah.
there.
Exactly.
Morgan Wallen's probably our number one guy.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Listen, I love it. Before I let you guys get out of here, I got to nerd out on some throws a little bit. All right, so just bear with me. I know back in the day you did discus as well as hammer. Was there ever a moment that you thought hammer might be the event for you to take you all the way down?
There never was that moment for me.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I think discus has always been like that passion for me. The thing that's always kind of related to dance, which is what I've done before. It just
Sure.
felt like we had that connection, and it was fun to do hammer. I think it provided kind of some relief from that one early focus, but it's always been me in discus.
Love it. How many days a week are we throwing? How many days a week are we lifting?
So right now lifting twice usually, and then maybe like a third day with more specific strength stuff. And then we're throwing, honestly, it kind of depends with travel and everything that's going on, but up to 5, honestly. And that could be like ball throws versus just discus and different things. You know, we mix that in. So.
Absolutely. Back in around 2021-22, in your technique, as you were like approaching the middle of the ring, you used to have a really pronounced high point. Over the past few seasons, I've seen that kind of almost flatten out a little bit. Was that intentional? And talk to me, what's the science?
It was it's definitely intentional. Like the orbit, and I think that was one of those things for her, that very steep orbit to the middle that was really glorified actually at that point.
Sure.
And I kind of disagreed, you know, and I think that now her orbit works much more around her body, and we're hitting a lot better angle and a consistent angle. And a lot of times back, you know, before 21, I would say she was definitely would lose a lot of throws early, you know, and either cage them or slight right sectors, and no longer is that an issue. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, other factors of course, but the orbit change really was helpful.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, listen, thank you guys for all you're doing for women's throwing. Congratulations on qualifying for your second Olympic Games. We are all rooting for you, and we think that we think maybe we talked about Diamond League PBs and all that stuff, but we thinking that we might be able to get a flat out PB coming from Paris, so we're pulling for you, man. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.